So I'd like to welcome everybody to the Medical Marijuana and Wellness webinar series. Tonight's topic is terpenes, the key to medical marijuana. I know that terpenes are something that's very important for a lot of people, and not only for a lot of people, it's really important to the medical marijuana process to be able to bring the healing process forward to a lot of patients. And we'd like to talk about that tonight because they're really the driving factor behind medical marijuana, and it's very important for a lot of people. I have with me tonight, although not on video, I have somebody who joined me by audio, Emily Laniak. She's from Move. Emily, please say hello and introduce yourself.
Yes, hello everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Mark. I'm excited to be here. I've been with Move now for about 2 years, and I've been in the industry for about 4. And just really excited to help people and the knowledge of understanding how terpenes can guide them in their road to recovery.
Sure. And you've done a lot of work, both in the dispensary itself and also with a lot of doctors, and you've got a pretty broad background in this subject.
I get to be in with the clinics and the doctors and just really guide them and explain to them how our products can help their patients.
Sure.
And yeah, see it all the way through. It's really exciting.
Cool. Well, listen, let's dive into the subject. I know it's exciting for me. I love the topic of terpenes because I think it's something that a lot of people don't understand, but it's really the key to the medical cannabis. And let's see, where did I go? There we are. Okay. Yeah, Leah, are we good? Can we see this?
Looks good. Okay,
cool. Well, first of all, I'd like to welcome Emily. And I do want to mention this is part of the Medical Marijuana and Wellness webinar series. Now, this is the last webinar we're doing this quarter. It's actually, you'll see September 28th posting for this. We had to redo this, but we had to reschedule it because of Hurricane Ian. And we apologize for anybody that was caught up in that. Hope everybody was safe. But we thought we'd pick a better time to be able to present this very important topic. I do want to mention that tonight's webinar will be live streamed on Facebook. And that also at the end of the webinar, when we finish, you'll be getting an email from us that has a copy of the video, which you can be able to link to our YouTube channel. We'll have also a copy of the presentation in flipbook format, and then a number of just important charts and information about terpenes themselves. So Emily, let's jump into terpenes.
All right, let's do it.
What are terpenes? I know that what's interesting is cannabis has a particular flavor. I know a smell. Everybody says the nose knows. And really the reason that people can have the cannabis has the different scents is due to terpenes. Is that correct?
Absolutely. Terpenes are like the essential oils of cannabis. So when you think of essential oils, that's something that comes out of regular plants that we know, like lavender and mango and mint, pinene, from pine, that sort of thing, but also directly from cannabis.
Sure. And the reason that the plant has them is because the terpenes are what really defends the plants against attacks from the creatures, whether it's fungus, insects, pests, and that type of thing. But also a lot of terpenes are found in spices and fruits, not just in cannabis by itself. It comes from, like you mentioned, essential oils. But it's also really critical. One of the things that makes cannabis work so effectively is it crosses what's called the blood-brain barrier, which you see down here. And that blood-brain barrier means that the medicine gets into your bloodstream. Therefore, it's put into your body, and it really helps you in many ways. So I'm very excited about this because this is really what makes medical cannabis work. And we have a lot of the terpenes. Linalool is very much like lavender. Lemon and myrcene are very much found in, like, for example, spearmint, and works as a great anti-inflammatory product. And also you find things like pinene and camphorine are really found in gingers and also are very good for pain relief. So terpenes are very, very important. Why don't you tell me a little bit, Emily, about terpenes themselves? I mean, they're natural oils, but not only do they give you the aroma, but there's different types of terpenes that we know about. We know about terpenes and terpenoids, right? There's different terminology that people use, one being wet and one dry. Is that correct?
Yep, absolutely. So the terpenes are the wet ones. So in that picture right there with all the frost, those are the terpenes. So it also not only gives the plant its aroma and its taste, but it also gives it that beautiful look that we so love when we see pictures of cannabis. The terpenoids are the ones that are cured and dried. And it's another name for the terpenes are the trichome tips.
Mhm.
And that's another name for those little frosty
These little guys that are
things
down
we
in
love.
here.
Yep.
I know a lot of people say, well, how come when I'm looking at cannabis, I see this fuzzy little plant? Well,
Yeah.
that's the fuzzy that's really the heart of cannabis. It's really the terpenes. It's really really what makes the strain, and that's where the cannabis efficacy comes from. Those
Yeah.
particular little terpenes, or those
Makes it
particular
sticky too.
trichomes. So one of the things I find about cannabis that I really find very interesting is I tend to look at it as like what I call a whole medicine cabinet. And what I mean by that is cannabis itself really unlocks a lot of different medical properties. We know that there's 450 medical properties to the plant itself. It is not a drug. It is a plant that acts as a medicine,
Mhm.
and it has components like 120 different cannabinoids and 100 different terpenes. So you can
Yep.
see over here some of the more popular cannabinoids: CBD, THC, CBD, that type of thing. But more importantly, they work together as an entourage effect. So, Emily, tell me a little bit about the entourage effect. We hear about it, but what does that really mean?
Yeah, the entourage effect is basically a way of saying better together. So the more you have together, it's going to work better for you. The more CBD you have combined with the THC and the CBN, it's all going to work together in an entourage effect. That's going to enhance its healing of efficacy, the therapeutic benefits, all of it is going to be more effective when you have more cannabinoids working together.
Sure. And what's interesting is your body knows when you have a problem. And so what it does is it then triggers the production of cannabinoids. And really, when you put CBD and THC together, 1 and 1 is 3. In other words, it works much better. They actually enhance each other. And if you look at the right-hand side over here, this little graphic of this guy is something that I took from the Normal publication. And it shows all the different conditions that's being addressed by cannabis. By the way, this document is 77 pages long. And it's very fascinating that in this one particular plant, we have so many different medical conditions that can be addressed, not just these, but again, others besides that.
Right.
I look at it as a medicine cabinet.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
And we were talking about the entourage effect before, but really entourage effect means you're putting together the cannabinoids, the terpenes, and the flavonoids all in one thing. And really working together, you mentioned it increases the medical efficacy. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. The therapeutic benefits are enhanced much, much more when you have all three of those combined.
And also, if you put CBD, so if you're dosing, or you're worried about THC, and maybe you're worried about the psychoactive effect of THC, and maybe getting too high, or you getting too worried, or getting some anxious from THC. If you take some CBD, it lessens the psychoactivity of THC, and it brings you back down, which is an effective way of dosing.
Yes, yes, for sure. Not only is it just good to have CBD in your regimen, kind of like a multivitamin, but it also lessens the effect of the THC, so it helps you be able to still function throughout the day and getting the benefits of the THC with less of a psychoactive effect.
Sure. Now, what's interesting is cannabis produces terpenes. And like I mentioned, we know that there's 120 of them that are being studied. 200 of them have been found that are out there. So we're finding more and more about the cannabis plant and its medical efficacy. But what's interesting is there's a lot of pros to having these terpenes in cannabis. The negative side of it, which people like, I should say dispensaries, professional dispensaries like Move really knows how to handle, is they're very volatile. And so you really have to have a very precise process to make it, to be able to get the best, this is not only produce the terpenes, but have the best quality terpenes. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah, for sure. And they can also be really expensive. And I think the greatest or the largest con, so to speak, would be that it's going to vary from batch to batch. If you're getting the terpenes from non-cannabis derived places, just like botanical derived terpenes, which I think we're going to talk about here in a minute, it's easier to keep that more consistent. So if you like what you like, you're going to get it next time, and it's going to be very much the same.
Sure.
Kind of like orange juice. you're going to get the same type of orange juice when you get it from the store when it comes from Tropicana. And that's because they've added natural flavors back in so they can make it very consistent. But if you just took an orange from your backyard and you juiced it in your kitchen, you're going to get a little bit of a different flavor every single orange that you use. So
Right.
that, I think that would probably be the largest con, but there's so many pros to it that it outweighs it.
Tell me about what CDT means.
That is cannabis derived terpenes.
Yeah.
Versus BDT, which we'll see in a second, which would be the botanical derived terpenes.
Sure. Now, I do want to point out to everybody, we are here to answer your questions. So please feel free to ask questions. You'll see back over here, you'll see a little double bubble, and it has an area where you can ask questions or Q&A. There's no such thing as a bad question. We're here to answer those questions. And especially in the area of terpenes, this is something that's not understood by a lot of folks. So please feel free to give us your questions about not only terpenes, but medical cannabis in general. Let's talk about botanical terpenes. Yep. There's over 20,000 of them that are known, right?
Oh yeah, and imagine how many unknown. I mean, it's everything from plants, so it's definitely going to be more cost effective than the cannabis derived that we saw before. That's a for sure, and it's going to be a little bit more available. You'll be able to have access to more than you would if it was just the cannabis derived terpenes.
Sure. Now tell me about some of the cons. But I think the biggest problem is, at least I found, is a lot of patients say, well, can I buy terpenes? And the answer is, yeah, you can, but they're extremely expensive. But the other issue is it's hard to find high quality botanical derived terpenes. I mean, I've done some research into this field, and I really only know of 3 firms that I would trust to be able to provide my terpenes for cannabis.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just going to be a little bit more, not maybe unregulated, but the standards just aren't quite as high as we like to hold in store.
Right.
Within our company and our products.
And I think the other side of it is, too, a number of practitioners. I'm a medical cannabis practitioner, and a lot of practitioners that I work with and I know really don't have a lot of extensive experience with botanical terpenes. They know about cannabis terpenes, but the botanical terpenes are kind of new. So putting them together with products for the patient is something that's a bit of a mystery to a lot of practitioners. So a lot of folks just stick to the cannabis-derived terpenes and really head in that particular direction. Doesn't take anything away from botanical derived. It's just easier to use and easier to find, put it that way.
Absolutely.
So, and here's some of the terpenes that are out there. In other words, if you take a look at the different terpenes, as I mentioned, there's 200 of them that have been 200 of them that have been found, 120 of them being studied. These are kind of the main ones that we find out there, and really they're the real major contributors to the medical benefits that you find in cannabis. You see a little bit. I know this is very hard to read, and I'm not really trying to have you read it, just have you understand each of these terpenes has a medical value to it that when put into the cannabis plant, it comes out. So the terpene profile of the product that you're using is extremely important. And I know that maybe you can help me here, Emily. There are people that say, I've tried cannabis and it doesn't work. Probably didn't have the right terpene profile, right?
Oh, 100%. 100%. It's not just about the THC percentage, which is something that Move is really, really big about, is we're not just here to sell you a THC product. We want to break down essentially, what are you looking to accomplish? What are your ailments? And then from there, you can work backwards and you can say, well, these are going to be the terpenes that are going to help you. Now let's find a strain or a product that has these terpenes, and that's going to give you a better chance of medical efficacy than if you had just gone in and gotten a THC product. Right. So for sure, if you've tried before and it hasn't worked, try again, go into a Move, let them give you a consultation and look at the terpene profiles for the strains and pick something that might help, but don't give up on it yet.
Sure. I think that's really important. I think if you understand the right terpenes that match to your particular condition that you're looking for relief, it makes a big difference. I think it makes more of a difference than looking for strains themselves.
Yes, for sure.
It's there. So let's take a look at the top 6. These are the ones that appear in. They're really, although there are a lot of them out there, these are the ones that really pop out. I know, well, tell me a little bit about myrcene and linalool.
Yeah, myrcene and linalool. Myrcene is going to be the most common terpene in cannabis. It's fruity, it's like mangoes, kind of sweet. It's got that, well, it comes from thyme and lemongrass as well, so it can also be a little bit herby. But it's going to be a great, great option for pain relief, sedative. So if you need help with sleep, the antibiotic effects and anti-inflammatory effects on it are also great. You can also eat mango prior to consuming cannabis, and
Right.
it will help accentuate the psychoactive effects of cannabis.
Sure.
It's an anecdotal evidence between the myrcene and the mango and how they work together to kind of enhance that. So also keep that in mind if you don't want to enhance it.
Sure.
And you happen to be a mango lover, just maybe watch that. So keep
Yeah.
that in mind. Linalool is going to be more of a floral aroma versus fruity, and it most commonly comes from lavender, but also from other spices like coriander, etc. It's really, really great for stress reducing. Like if you think about it, if you're going to have an essential oil diffusing in your home, you're probably going to choose lavender if you're
Sure.
looking for stress relief
Sure.
and relaxation. So it's the same type of thing, just it's the essential oil of cannabis. So you can use it for anti-anxiety, for sedation, anti-inflammatory as well. It's also a pain relieving terpene, and it's most likely going to be found in the indica based strains. So
Mhm.
when you hear indica, it's probably going to be pretty heavy in linalool, and
Sure.
also probably myrcene. The two of those are going to be the strongest on the indica side.
Yeah. And in the sativa side, limonene is really important, right?
Oh yes, yes. Also fruity, but more on a citrusy side than the myrcene.
Mhm.
It's from the limes, lemons, and is in a lot of cleaning products. A lot of the cleaning products that you have for like your kitchen are going to be lemon scented. So that's because it's an antifungal and antibacterial. It's going to help with heartburn, reflux, and it also helps absorb the terpenes. So it, it could potentially be stronger for some people because of that. But it's going to help you elevate your mood,
Yeah.
relieve stress because it's very uplifting, and it's going to be more on the sativa side.
It really helps activate the other terpenes. That's what you're really trying to do. It helps activate the other terpenes that are in the product.
Yes, yes.
So I know one of the most important terpenes is pinene, which is really great. It's like that pine needle kind of a smell.
Yep.
And it's great for anxiety, inflammation, bronchial inhaler. I think that's a positive. It's really something that really helps with a lot of conditions. One of the things you have to be careful about with pinene is it will improve your short-term memory. So if
Yeah.
you're suffering from PTS, I don't recommend a product that has a lot of terpene in it, or a lot of pinene in it, excuse me, because it's
Yeah,
something that may not be something that you're really looking for.
I agree.
But caryophyllene is pretty interesting as well, isn't it?
Yeah, and that one's going to be more so in topicals.
Mhm.
It's good for the analgesic, pain relieving properties, anti-inflammatory, and can actually help reduce alcohol cravings.
Mhm.
And it's got that peppery, spicy smell. So it's in things like black pepper and cinnamon, um, herbs, those sorts of things.
Right. Right. I know we had a question that came in from Maryland about sleep needed. When you're looking for terpenes that help you with sleep, I think some things like myrcene and linalool in the product really help.
Yes, for sure. Very, um, again, the indica, so linalool and myrcene are going to be the most sedative of the terpenes. So you would
Mhm.
want to look for a strain that has that as the highest.
Right. That can help quite a bit with sleep. And last but
Another,
not least, one of my favorite, eucalyptol. And the reason I say I like it is because it really helps with a number of conditions. Not only one of my issues is inflammation, but also it helps a lot with high blood pressure and things like that. And as we get older, those are
yeah.
things we worry about. I'm a senior citizen, so it's something I worry about quite a bit.
Well, also the sinus infections, you think about steaming eucalyptus in your shower when you have a sinus infection, or using
Mhm.
Vicks Vapo Rub, it's all from that eucalyptal oil. So
Sure.
it's going to have that minty, fresh smell, and it's from the eucalyptus and tea tree.
Mhm. Yeah. I wanted to present this slide right here. I'm not trying to read it to people. This is what we call the cannabis terpenoid table. I want to let you know we talked about the 200 different terpenes that are out there, the 120 that are being studied. This is one of the tables that are there, and it's important to understand we're beginning to find what they are. We're beginning to understand their chemical makeup. We're also beginning to understand the efficacy. But I just thought I would point this out. This is something that's available, and it's something that people take a look at. It's very interesting how much, how should I say, it helps with a lot of people. And what I really want to point out here is, notice over here they talk about what they call boiling point. This boiling point means at what point did I have it where it will actually boil off or disappear, okay, or actually where it'll actually appear or disappear, type of thing. So really you want to stay somewhere around 330 degrees if you really want to work with myrcene. Is that correct?
Yes, so they can be burned off. I did see a question about that actually, on how you protect the terpenes from being burnt off. So essentially you just have to cook them under the temperature of their boiling point. So in this case, myrcene is around 330 degrees. So if you're cooking it or cooking it into, melted chocolate or something, as long as it's under 330 degrees, you should be able to preserve the terpene profile.
Sure, and that's very, very important. So in other words, the temperature, the heat, will actually affect which terpenes are kept and which ones are basically are removed.
Yeah.
So I know a good number to use. I know when I'm vaping and things like that, I typically stick about, depending on what I'm looking for, I stick about 320 when I set my machine. I set it for about 320. I think that's one of the optimal areas to help me with a lot of the different terpenes that are out there.
Yeah, that's a great idea, and that's why a lot of vape pens and flower vaping devices have that heat temperature,
Right.
is because it is beneficial medicinally to be able to control the temperature so that you don't burn off any of the terpenes.
Sure. The low, medium, and high. And really, this is on a low setting. If you think about it, the medium setting is about 360, high setting is about 390 usually on the pens that are variable.
So then you would lose some of the components of that myrcene.
Right. And that's where you have your choice of being able to dial it in. Now, this is something that's interesting. People will say, well, how do I know what terpenes are in the product? Now, I know as Move, you do a great job of really being transparent in this area. This is an example of what you call a certificate of analysis, right?
Yes. So we call this a certificate of analysis, or a COA, and you can ask for this for any product that you want to purchase at Move. And if they don't have it printed out, which they probably will, but if they don't, you'll be able to view this page online. They'll be able to find it for you based on the batch. So essentially, this is what I'm talking about when I say you want to find one that's high in limonene, like for sleep, for instance. If they pulled, I think we said this was modified grapes. So if we pulled this modified grape COA, we'd be able to see that it is very high in limonene. So it probably would benefit you for sleep. Now, could this change? Absolutely. The next time you go to get modified grapes, it's a plant, so it's going to grow differently. So the next time you get it, you'll want to ask for the COA again, because the terpene profile could be slightly different, and it might not be as high in limonene, or it might be too high in myrcene, or however, or whichever way you don't want it to go, it could. So you'll just want to check on that every time, but you can ask for the certificate of analysis for any of our products.
Right. I think that's really good. And Move is very transparent. This is an example of the terpene table that you make available to patients. Is that correct?
Yes, love this terpene table. Give it to all of my clinics that I see and all of my doctors, because they love it as well. Because essentially, when you walk into the dispensary and you see strain names like strawberry cough or GG number 4, you're like, well, what does that mean? What does that mean medicinally? How does that help me? So you're able to start on the other side, and you're able to say, okay, well, I'm looking for pain relief. So what's going to be high in pain relief? Oh, beta caryophyllene is high in pain relief. So now I'm going to find a strain that's high in beta-caryophyllene. And this is just a table. So it's just a guide or reference. Again, it can change every time, but these strains are generally high in beta-caryophyllene. So
Mhm.
that's a good place for you to start.
Sure.
If, for instance, Florida I-95 is not on there. So you might not want to try Florida I-95. You might want to try something like a fairy godmother or a guru or something that resembles those strains.
Sure. And the little color codings here, look at the sativa, hybrid, and indica. The blues are indica, the greens are the hybrids, and the lighter color, the darker yellow is more of is your sativas. I do want to point out, Jody asked a great question, and that is, what are your thoughts on shopping terpenes rather than strains for specific medical conditions? I am 100% down on that. I really think that we are at a point right now where we know more about terpenes. I think if you go in and you say, here's the terpene profile I'm looking for, tell me what the products are, your chances of getting a product that'll address your particular condition and provide the relief you want is going to be much higher. That's my feeling. Emily, what's your thoughts?
Yes, 1,000% ditto. I couldn't agree more. Also because the strain phenotypes can change. So if you get something that's the same strain name, it might be different. So you just want to find the same strain or terpene profile rather. So 100% shop the terpenes, not the strains.
Yeah, a lot of people will tell you Jack Herrera is not Jack Herrera is not Jack Herrera.
Exactly.
And so, and even within even with the same dispensaries, it's the terpene profile. This is another example of your terpene table with the myrcenes and limonene. And again, what I love is you're able to say, I'm looking for example, sedative effects, or I'm looking for a muscle relaxant, or I'm looking for something that's anti-inflammatory. And you're able to see the products that actually fit that profile for you.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. So it's just going to be more of the same guide, just different terpenes. We have it for all of the common ones.
Right. And here's another example of with pinene and linalool.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this terpene table you make available to patients. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we have it in like an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper that our clinics have. So the clinics around all of our dispensaries, and then also in one of our patient guides. It's a square booklet that we've recently launched, and it's in there as well. I think the third and fourth page, and then online there's information about terpenes on our website as well.
Cool. Here's an example of terpenoline, which is another important one. Again, sedative, inflammation, anxiety, antioxidant. Oh, and here's our famous Jack Herrera popping up here.
There it is.
Terpene Dream. So we had some questions that were submitted prior to this webinar. So I thought we'd maybe run through a few of these and maybe get some answers for these. Fact or fiction, or truth, fact or fiction, sativa versus indica for anxiety relief or anxiety agitation. Really, I think it's a derivative, not of indica or sativa as much as the terpenes. Am I safe on saying that, Emily?
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, usually indica is going to lean more towards anxiety relief, and sativa could potentially lean more towards anxiety agitation. However, it's not a done deal, set in stone sort of thing. It can most certainly change depending on the terpene profile.
Sure. Now, one of the questions is, what's the best terpene for nerve pain? And when I say nerve pain as a practitioner, I look at it from one or two. Is it nerve pain that has to do with just pain in general, or does it have to do with like neuropathy? Because neuropathy is a condition where the nerve, a lot of the receptors on our body lose the coating that are there. And so that's one issue. But just to have pure pain itself, that's another issue. But I think one of the best terpenes for nerve, for pain in general, let's just talk pain in general, I think is caryophyllene. Is that right?
Yeah, that's definitely a really, really, really great one. And definitely helps with muscle spasms. I'd also say maybe some myrcene. It's a muscle relaxant, excuse me. So I would say that could also, have some benefits, but definitely the caryophyllene.
Right. I just wanted to point that out. This is, again, going back to the chart that's here, hopefully gives us a lot more information. Let's take on the next question here. Best terpenes for anxiety, stress, and then also migraines and headaches. I think let's break that into two. One, anxiety and stress. I think linalool fits in that category.
Oh, for sure. Linalool is going to be probably the top for that. Also, probably limonene, because it's uplifting.
Right.
So, if you're in that slump or you're kind of feeling on the depressed side, the linalool will really help you stay uplifted.
Yeah. Talk
And
about
then
migraines and headaches. I think we're talking about things like pinene, right?
Yeah, pinene is great. It's a bronchodilator. It's an anti-inflammatory. I think that it opens up airways. It opens up pathways. I think that would be a great one. It also helps improve focus. So, that kind of hazy, kind of just out there feeling when you have a headache, that can also help.
Help quite a bit.
Yeah.
Terpenes for sleep and chronic pain. Again, two questions.
Yeah, definitely the linalool and the caryophyllene. That one's really great for insomnia as well.
And again, pain goes back to the whole same thing as migraines. You're going into the category of the pinenes and really even to a certain extent the limonene.
Yes. Yeah, for sure.
So we have one. Could I ask about double major scoliosis, hardware complications? Yeah. Oh, I think this goes back into and scoliosis goes back into the neuropathy area, which again falls into the category of the nerve endings and a lot of the coatings. That falls into, again, it falls into, that's where caryophyllene comes into play. And I also think myrcene helps in this area.
Yeah, so I don't know much about the C1 sacrum because I'm not a medical professional, but
Right.
I know that scoliosis is back pain. And I think that sticking with the linalools, the myrcenes for that muscle relaxing aspect, I think the beta caryophyllene with the muscle spasm and anticonvulsant benefits, I think that those would be really great for probably the scoliosis and the next one, the chronic sciatica pain, probably the same answer.
I was going to say that's almost the same, same, almost not the same question, but same answer for both of those.
Right, definitely.
Yeah. It says, what is a good mix for someone who doesn't want to get high or sleepy, but needs relief from polyarthritis inflammation? This is a good question. You want to talk about that, or want me to take it?
Sure. My first thing would be CBD, because if you don't want the high or sleepy, CBD is going to be a really, really great route. Now, it's not going to be, it could potentially be not quite enough if you have polyarthritis. That sounds like it could be pretty intense. So you might need a little bit more than just CBD, but CBD is something that should definitely be in your regimen.
Yeah.
I
and
think
remember,
about it.
A little bit of THC with CBD, it pays major dividends. 1 and 1 is 3. Yeah. So what I'm trying to point out is, in this particular case, I would use something that has a slight amount. Talk about ratios. The ratio might be something like 5 to 1, 5 CBD to 1 THC, for example. Something in that particular category could help, or maybe even 8 to 1, or you might get down to 2 to 1, depending on the condition. And basically, what I like about Move products is you can actually kind of mix your own, and so you can find out what that ratio is that really helps you. Yeah,
for sure. So definitely working together and remembering that the THC isn't going to be as psychoactive if the CBD is much higher.
Right.
You can take our tinctures and you could make your own ratio. You could do the 5-drop CBD to 1-drop THC, and then you could go up from there, starting low and going slow. But definitely mixing in that CBD is a huge thing.
Right. And I think the next question is along the same lines of arthritic pain and pain. CBD is great at reducing inflammation, but if you have pain associated with that, you're going to need a little bit of THC in there. That's why if you're looking at a hemp-based product, you need something that's a full spectrum. But in many cases, the hemp-based products aren't going to be strong enough to really help with, for example, polyarthritis, which is a complicated process. but also you want to be able to have something that addresses your pain. That's why getting into the 4-to-1s, the 8-to-1s, the 2-to-1s are really important to be able to try those and find out for your body what works best, because every person is different.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And then the terpenes for anxiety and stress, anxiety and depression. I think we talked about that in it earlier. Linalool is probably one of the best for that.
Yeah, that and limonene, both of
Yes.
them.
Right.
Limonene's very uplifting. So yeah, any of those would be great. And then for ADHD, I mean, anything that's going to be really good for focus. So like a pinene, something high in pinene would be really great.
Sure. That'd be really good. Yeah. So hopefully it answers some of the questions that are there. Again, if people have other questions, please feel free to ask. We'll be more than happy to answer those. Let's talk about how people take medical cannabis, because this is very important. I know we have a couple of questions in here. I know Michael and Raul will answer yours as we talk about this. What's interesting is I like to start with inhalation, because I have friends who will tell me, or people that I've met and say, I'll just smoke a joint and it'll take care of everything. And what people don't realize is when you roll that joint and then when you go to light it, that 500-degree temperature that you're lighting it with, the good and bad news is it gets rid of 60% of the cannabinoids, gets rid of 100% of the terpenes and 100% of the flavonoids. So you've got a joint that has probably 40% of the medical efficacy that you had in that product. That's the bad news. Good news is it works. With only 40% of its efficacy, it still works very, very well. And that's what we've been able to find. So really the case with flower is if we can take that flower and we can put it into a concentrate, so we can break that down. And I don't, we'll have a whole area of concentrates, and we'll be talking about that in another webinar. But the concentrates really not only protect it protects the terpenes and the flavonoids in a lot of the products that they make. Is that correct?
Yeah, because when you're using concentrates, the method you use, you're controlling the temperature. So you're able to keep it below that temperature that's going to burn off all of the terpenes and flavonoids and cannabinoids and all of that.
Sure.
I personally, I use the vape pen most often. I've been chronically ill for 11 years, and I've been using medical cannabis since year 7. And what I've found to manage my pain is that vaping, because it has the immediate onset and the shortest duration, so it's going to last the least amount of time, I find that it's the easiest to medicate. I'm never overly high, and because I'm able to keep that vape pen on me and it's relatively discreet, more so than the flower is, I'm able to use it and stay medicated. Also below that level of burning off the terpenes.
Sure.
On there, you have the inhaler, which is really cool because Move is one of the only ones in Florida that has the inhaler. And if you want discreet, that's your way to go. There's no smell, there's no vapor, there's no cloud, nothing like that. And it's a microdose. So you just get a little bit at a time. It's 2.4 milligrams per actuation. So it's really not a lot, but you do get it immediately, and then it's not going to have a super long duration.
Right. Yeah. And I think these work very well. A lot of people worry about, well, if I put something in my lungs, it's going to be bad for me. Remember that cannabis does not have carcinogens in it like tobacco. In fact, in the medical field and in the Western medical area, there's a lot of inhalers that people use to be able to help their lungs, provide the medication to their lungs. That's pretty much what this is doing as well.
Yeah, it looks just like an albuterol inhaler, which aids in the discreetness.
Right, it's there. Michael had a good question that we should answer right here. It says, using a dry herb versus a liquid vape, I would guess that the terpenes aren't as destroyed with dry herb versus smoking a joint or hitting or huffing a vape pen. You want to take that one on?
Yeah, so you are correct, Michael, in the fact that using the dry herb, that it's not going to be as destroyed as smoking a joint. I will say, though, that with the vape, you can still control the temperature. So you are still able to preserve those terpenes, whereas with smoking a joint, you're not. I mean, who knows what the temperature of their joint is, right?
Right. Now, I have a device that I use It's a mighty plus. And what I do is I can actually use the dry herb, but I can set the temperature. And that makes a big difference. And that's something that you might want to take a look at. I know that really helps me preserve the terpenes or get the terpenes I want. At the same time, I'll be able to get the let's just say the dry herb experience.
Yeah, and then you can reuse that leftover dry herb
Mhm.
for all other, a bunch of other options like cooking because it's already decarbed because
Right.
you've already heated it.
Right. It works great it works great in my cappuccino as well.
There you go.
There you go. Tell me a little bit about sublingual. I know that a lot of people start using a sublingual product. In other words, it's something you put underneath your tongue, which takes about 15 to 30 minutes to work, but works for 4 to 6 hours. What's interesting is inhalation works right away. People say it works from 2 to 6 hours. In my case, it works about 2 to 3 hours. But I think that what I find in the morning, I have a condition where I have herniated discs in my neck, and I'm addressing it for pain. I'll take a vape pen when I get up in the morning to really just get that pain down to something that's manageable. But I take some sublingual drops because literally 20 to 25 minutes later, I want something that'll carry over for about 4 to 6 hours. In my case, about 5 hours.
Yeah, definitely. The tinctures are and the oral spray, but the sublingual route, awesome ways to get pretty quick onset time with a pretty substantial duration. So you're kind of like right in the middle of it all, between the onset and the duration if you're looking for that. We have different tinctures. We've got some that are strain specific, so you'll really be able to pick out the terpene profile, but they are some of our stronger products because it's from Rick Simpson oil, which is RSO. And so that, it's going to be a stronger product than just a regular tincture. So you want to make sure you know the difference between those. The oral spray is another way to get a really great microdose. We're also, I believe, one of the only ones that has an oral spray. So it's great for being discreet. You can just keep it in your purse, do 1 or 2 sprays and get that quick onset and a pretty decent duration time.
Sure. It works out very, very well.
Yeah.
Oral, but before we get to oral, let's talk a little bit about your topicals. One of the things that's great about topicals is you can put it on and it works immediately. And one of the cool things that you have at Move is your products really are transdermal, meaning it goes right through the blood-brain barrier, right into the bloodstream. But also, not only do you have the gels and creams, you have a very cool transdermal patch, right?
Yes. So the topicals are one of the things that really set Move apart. We have topicals and also transdermals. So the difference between those is that topical is just going to help the localized area wherever you apply it. The transdermals are going to be absorbed into the blood vessels, the bloodstream, and you're going to have systemic relief all over. So essentially, the THC molecule does not naturally absorb past the skin. So Move has taken it and has encapsulated it. It's a patented technology. They've encapsulated it in a molecule that does. So now when you apply some of our certain products, which I'll tell you what they are in a second, but when you apply those products to any of the thin-skinned areas on your body, really anywhere, but the thin-skinned areas are going to be the best, you're going to get systemic relief. So our patches are between, they last about 72 hours. Some people say 4 days, but usually 3 days. It's a slow release over the course of those 3 days. It's a small patch and you can wear 1, you can wear 4. I sometimes wallpaper my back where I put multiple on there just so that when you're not able to be medicating, whether it's having an edible or using your vape pen or a tincture, you're still able to have something going through your body that is helping your pain so that you don't ever get past that breakthrough pain where it's just so much to get back from. So that's the patch. We have it in CBD, THC, and then a ratio product of 1 part CBD to 1 part THC. And then the other encapsulated products we have are going to be the tincture. So our CBD, THC, and 1-to-1 tinctures are encapsulated. So what my favorite little trick about that is putting it in your own lotion. So I just pour the bottle of the tincture into a big bottle of lotion, and now you have your own transdermal gel, like our
Mhm.
Evolve gel. But you can
Mhm.
make your own ratio. So if you're really needing something different than what we have, you're able to make your own with that tincture. And
Sure.
I've been using it now a whole bottle worth, and it's reducing scars, it's helping with my
Mhm.
skin, and just and even some of the pain, because it is giving that systemic relief.
Right.
And then the capsules are
Mhm.
also going to be encapsulated. So
Mhm.
when you take our capsules, you're going to get the effect much quicker.
Sure.
Yeah, it's
Sure.
going to absorb quicker.
Right. Let's talk about oral for a minute, because this is something that's interesting. In other words, what's interesting here is oral products, whether they're capsules or edibles, the famous edibles, they could take anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours to work. I know that one of the famous things I hear about is about the time you think it's not working and you take another one is about the time it starts working. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the trap, unfortunately, especially when they taste as good as they do here at Move.
Mhm.
Um, you eat a chocolate, 10 milligrams, you think you're fine, and then you're not.
Mhm. Sure.
So you want to make sure that you can start low, you go slow. Start with half if you need to on
Mhm.
any of the edibles, whether you cut it in half or bite it in half. However, just because edibles, they hit a little bit differently than the
Mhm.
rest of the products. Your body is going to metabolize it through your liver, and everybody, every body can react differently to it. So you
Sure.
just have to be, a little bit aware. Some people, they have no effect with edibles. They feel nothing. They could eat 100 milligrams, the whole bottle, and feel nothing. And somebody else can have 2.5 milligrams, a quarter of one soft chew, and feel like they're baked. So,
Sure.
yeah, definitely something to be treated cautiously.
Right. Edibles are always, and again, every person's body is different. Some people, like with alcohol, some people can have one drink and they're gone. Some people can drink the whole bottle and they're just getting warmed up. I lived in Europe and I learned to not drink with Germans and Brits. I'm not in their league. Let's put it
You
that way.
can't keep up.
No, man. I tell you, I carry the bottles for them. Let's put it that way.
That's funny.
It's out there. We had a good question come in. Let's take a couple of questions right now. One of them is, I know from an anonymous question, what are some good terpenes for fibromyalgia? And I think this is where caryophyllene and really even myrcene come into play. Is that right?
Yeah, also I know for myself, I have fibromyalgia, and things that are higher in linalool are
Mhm.
usually helpful for me. So, and I know that's, every body is different, but I would say linalool is also a good one to throw in the mix.
Mhm. And Michael asked a couple of good questions. I'll take one of Michael's questions, then I'll answer Raul's, or give Raul's comment. One of the questions that he has is, in the process of making gummies, all the good terpenes are cooked away. So wouldn't it be better to try dry herb? Well, depends on how you cook it. I know in talking to Sherry Cannabis, which is my cooking guru, she's the Martha Stewart of cooking. She tries to cook at lower temperatures. I know a lot of people, you just don't throw this at 500 degrees or 480. When she cooks, she uses it for a lot of sauces, and she loses it where she uses it at 300 degrees or 310 or 320 over a period of time. You really have to pay attention. And if you just cook it a little bit longer at a lower temperature, it'll work out better from a cannabis standpoint. In many cases, cannabis works great with spaghetti sauces, stews, a lot of the there's a lot of, how should I say, a lot of the different sauce-based edibles that are cooking that are out there.
Yeah. And I know, like in our gummies, for instance, I've actually asked this question to the man who makes the gummies and has created the whole recipe, and it like runs it all up there, right? And because I had the same question, well, isn't that cooking off terpenes? And he said the same thing, Mark, that it's cooked at a temperature that is below that boiling point, where none of the terpenes are actually cooked off.
Right.
So they're all preserved.
And that's why consulting a cannabis cook like Sherry, Sherry Sicard, is somebody who you might want to take a look at. She has Sherry Cannabis is her website. She has some great advice, and she's experimented with this a long time and really has the inside track. She's my go-to for cooking. Raul actually made a comment. I wouldn't say it's a question, it's more of a comment. And that is, he mentioned a good tip about the strains. How the strains have different terpene profiles from batch to batch. He said, for example, using GDP for sleep for 2 years. And I always ask what the certificate of analysis, the COA is. It says my current GDP is the highest in myrcene and linalool, but the last batch was the highest in caryophyllene and lower in myrcene. I understand cannabis is a botanical product. It is a plant. And based on the time of the year it grows, where it's grown, how it's grown, and candidly, the disposition of the plant, you will get different effects or different results.
Yep, that's why we shop the terpene profile, not the strains.
Right. So Michael asked a quick question. I'll answer this. Is can you tell us, Mark, approximately how many milligrams you estimate you take daily? I'm amazed that you can function. Michael, you are right. When I had my auto accident and I ended up with 7 herniated discs in my neck and 2 in my back, I had very little range of motion and I was in an extreme amount of pain. I ended up going down to doctors, obviously prescribed some pharma-based products. And because of the amount of pain I was in, and what they recommended that I take, I literally couldn't even sit on the couch. I mean, I was just a vegetable with the pharma products. That lasted for about a day and a half. Now I'm in the medical cannabis business. So the first thing I did was consult my doctor, and we came up with a formula, and I started using medical cannabis products. Now, let me point out, I found that one of the keys is not just THC, but CBD, because in my case, if I can lower the inflammation in my neck, it makes the pain less. Now, I still need THC to be able to address that. Now, I also am being a senior citizen, I have the commensurate artificial knees, both right and left. Being an athlete, growing up, I was a golfer. I'd walk 5 to 7 miles every day, and most days, I should say. And you do that for 40 years, you end up in a situation where you're tearing up your knees and your back. So as my doctor calls me, you are an inflamed animal. So I take a lot of CBD, and I do take some THC with it. It's hard for me to exactly estimate it. I'd be on the higher scale of that. I really don't want to get into exact numbers of that because it varies from person to person, and I don't want to set a precedence where you start using a high amount of milligrams of THC that won't help you. I have found that the key isn't really the milligrams. What I found is what terpenes are there. And then what I also found is I go low and I go slow and I try the different products. Now, in my particular case, my herniated discs in my neck are not going to go away during the day. I have to do something in the morning. I have to do something in the middle of the afternoon. I have to do something in the evening. And I found now that I have to do something for sleep. You mentioned edibles here on routes of administration. I'm a chocoholic, and I love taking some chocolate just before I go to bed. And the reason for that is it helps me not only fall asleep, but it helps me sleep through the night. Something that's really there. And I think that makes a big difference. I am very high on the number of milligrams per day. And again, I don't want to get too much into it because I don't want to set a bad precedence. But in my particular case, what offsets it, it's not a matter of milligrams. I take a high concentration of CBD, which offsets the psychotropic or the high that I would get from THC.
Yep.
That's something you agree with, Emily?
Absolutely. I think of CBD as like your multivitamin, right? You take your multivitamin every morning. You don't know what it's doing. You don't really feel anything right then, but it is doing something. And and if you stopped taking it, you would feel worse. So you continue to take it. So it's the same kind of thing with CBD. If you can afford to have that in your regimen, I would definitely add that in there, especially because, like you said, it lowers the psychotropic effects, which makes your functioning that much better.
Yeah, when I first was injured, I was leaning more towards a higher THC than CBD. And then what I found out when I ran out one day and I tried a higher concentration of CBD, I found out that CBD really helped reduce the pain because it reduced the inflammation. So right now I'm probably in the 4-to-1 category, to give you an idea of CBD to THC that I normally take. Although in the morning I'll take something like that, and then sometimes in the evening I'll take something like 2-to-1 because I want to be able to basically fall asleep. It's there.
That's great.
It's there. So I hope they answered everybody's questions. We have some more coming at the end. Tell me a little bit about Move. You guys have some best of class products, right?
We do, yes. So like I mentioned earlier, we're really big about our medicinal side, the efficacy of it, not just the highest THC. So we've come up with a few different products that are proprietary to us and really set us apart, like that oral spray, the patch, the meter dose inhaler, a few things that other dispensaries they don't have and can really help in a medicinal way.
Sure. And one of the other things you did was you have what they call the encapsulation technology, which you have a patent on, which helps you get the product directly goes through the blood-brain barrier, the dermis, gets right into the bloodstream, right?
Yep. So that's the patch, the capsules, our Evolve gel, and then our tincture. Not our strain-specific RSO tincture, but the THC, CBD, and one-to-one tincture.
Sure. Really makes a big difference. Here's an example of some of the products that are there. We talked about routes of administration. You kind of match up very nicely. Here's your meter dose inhaler, right?
Yes.
And the patch. Yep. I love the patch. I'm a patch fan, big patch fan.
Love the patch. A lot of the doctors love the patch. It comes highly recommended by a lot of physicians. And then our Evolve gel is going to be the transdermal one versus just the pain relief cream, which we also have for topical relief. So if you just have one spot, like your knee is bad, or you have something wrong with just a shoulder, then the pain relief cream might be enough for you. You don't maybe need systemic relief, but somebody that has arthritis everywhere is going to need, Evolve gel. You can't have enough pain relief cream in a day to take care of that pain. So
absolutely. And what I love is RSO, Rick Simpson oil, when it was first made, was actually a very tarry kind of it still comes in syringes, which is kind of hard to use, but you actually brought it down, put it into both tinctures and also capsules, and now gummies, right?
Yep. So we've got the RSO syringe, the RSO strain-specific tinctures, and then the capsules, which the capsules are 25 milligrams. So they're pretty strong, not somewhere I would start, but definitely a viable product for somebody that's, been a user for longer. Now, if you're on the other side of things and you want to be very careful about your RSO dosing, the RSO gummies are a great way to go because you can cut them in half or in quarters and get 2.5 milligrams or 5 milligrams, or you eat the whole thing and you get 10, and it's a very precise way to dose your RSO.
I tend to look at RSO as like the 151 Bacardi of product lines. It's very strong. It's very effective. It works great, but be very careful because it is strong.
Absolutely. I've been using cannabis medicinally now for 4 years. Oh gosh, more than that. I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And I still, if I take too much RSO before I go to bed, I can still wake over and feel too groggy. So that's why I'm really appreciative of the gummies. We also have an RSO product that is really high in CBD. It's 30 parts CBD to 1 part one part RSO. So, that CBD really does bring down the psychotropic effects, but not completely. It is still RSO.
That product is a tincture oil, right?
It's both a tincture and a syringe.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yep. We have it in both formulations.
So here's an example. For example, we're talking about your product line. This is one of the things that I love what you do. You say, here's our products, here's the terpene profile, and here's some notes on the efficacy of it.
Yeah, StrainPrint is an app that Move has partnered with, where we're able to collect the anonymous back-end data of patient users to base the efficacy of strains. So you go on StrainPrint and you're able to track your session essentially. So you would say, I smoked Sour Jack and I felt this way. So all that data from all the patients is gathered and it's put together to say, Sour Jack is said that it is 58% effective for stress and 49% effective for depression. So again, it's going to change some batch to batch, but this is what the majority of people are saying. So we have these on most of the common strains that we have. And then StrainPrint also highlights certain strains as well. So you can learn about new strains that way.
And also you have your concentrates. What you're trying to do is preserve as many of the terpenes as you can.
Yep. So the same thing we were talking about earlier with making sure you know the temperature.
Mhm.
Like using an electric dab rig is going to help you set the temperature so you know that you're not going to be burning off any of the concentrates.
Sure.
And it's going to be a little bit more potent than the
Mhm.
flour as well, because
Yeah.
it is a concentrated form of flour.
And I think the same thing applies to a lot of your vapes.
Yep. So the vapes are made out of the distillate from the flour, and it's very fast acting. It comes in multiple forms. We've got an all-in-one vape. We have our plus and our pure cartridges. We've got the dart, which is that green pod-looking one on the picture there,
Mhm.
and we even have flower cups that are good for the like tabletop vaporizers,
Mhm.
like the volcano and things like that, so that you can vape your flower instead of smoking it.
And you now have some new, I think you have some resin cartridges, aren't you? Vape cartridges?
We do. We have live resin cartridges and live rosin cartridges.
Mhm.
Those ones are some of our newer products as well. And I've not personally tried them yet. I will, but not yet. But I have heard some of the most amazing things about those cartridges.
I was
Um,
talking to one of your cohorts, Nick, today, and he was
yeah.
singing the praises of the vape cartridge, the rosin's
Oh
great
my
vape
goodness,
cartridge.
he is so in love with those cartridges. And he's not the only one.
Mhm.
So yes, definitely a lot of options for whatever your needs be, maybe.
And a lot of folks ask, how do I find out what's in the product? Well, here's an example of how you talk about some of your different products where you look at the terpene profiles, the efficacy, and then of course the results that you see from strain print.
Yeah, so our pure lines are going to be the ones that are more like the Tropicana, where
Mhm.
the terpenes are added back in, so you get a really consistent strain every time. So
Sure.
Maui Wowie is going to be pretty consistently high in myrcene and high in terpinolene, limonene, caryophyllene. You're
Mhm.
going to feel pretty relaxed and happy, those sorts of things. It's not going to change much. When you
Mhm.
get into the plus line, that's where it's going to be more of the cannabis derived terpenes. So you're going to have a little bit more of the variance.
Right, right. And here's some just kind of these are just examples for Canasu and
Yep.
Hoochie Kush type of thing.
Canisu is the 1-to-1.
Right. Which
So
is
it's
great.
one part CBD to one part THC.
Mhm. And then here's pure blueberry and black mamba. I've tried black mamba. I think it's great for pain
Oh
relief. It's
yeah.
great.
Yes. Love those ones.
It's a great something great to use just before bed.
Yeah. And if you're feeling irritable, look at that. 60% of people say that it's
Oh,
effective
wow.
for irritability.
Cool. Now this says 54 locations. I think you're over 60 now. Is that correct?
I think we're at 59.
Okay.
I don't think we've quite hit 60 yet. We're at 58 or 59, for sure 58.
Mhm.
So way up there, always growing. Probably have one near you somewhere
Mhm.
if you're listening. If not, let us know and we'll maybe keep it in mind. But
You know,
yeah, definitely
you're adding
growing.
them quite a lot. I know that from the time this has only been like a month and a half since the time we put together the slide, and
Yep.
now I know that we were trying to do this presentation on September 28th, but unfortunately, our good friend Ian showed up, so that's why we're doing it
Yeah.
tonight. But from the time we put it together to now, you've opened up a number of dispensaries.
Yes, we sure have.
So
Another one in Tampa, I know in my area. So lots coming.
yeah. So here's some more questions. Let's just run through these questions so we can wrap up. It says the higher the terpene, higher the effect. I don't know quite what you mean by the higher the terpene. I don't know if you mean by higher temperature, but I do know that
Or maybe like terpene profile.
yeah, it could be. It could be that could be the higher terpene profile. It will have, again, it depends on the effect that you're getting from the terpene, and again, how your body reacts to it. It says the THC count matter if the terpene count is high. I have to tell you, there's one, not Move, but another dispensary has one product they put out. It's actually a 9-to-1. I'm sorry, a 1-to-9, 1 CBD to 9 THC. It's great for pain, but they have another one, the same ratio, 1-to-9, that's great for sleep. And what's the difference? The terpene profile. Isn't
Yeah.
that interesting?
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't say that the THC percentage is what matters. And Move is
Right.
really big about steering away from that mindset and trying to look at it from more of a terpene mindset. So if you mean like higher the terpene, like more terpenes, more effect, then I would agree with that. And I would say that the THC percentage doesn't matter as much if the terpenes are higher.
And also, the other question that comes into play is, do terpenes and strain work to determine the type of terpenes you're consuming? Candidly, you're really focused on the terpenes, and they happen to be delivered through the strains. I think that's the way it really works. Is that correct?
Yeah. The strain names are really just a way to remember a profile. Does that make sense? Like, we're not going to remember a terpene profile, but we'll remember that Guru has a terpene profile like such and such. So yeah, you're right. And you're right in saying that the strain name is just the way of labeling the terpene, essentially, the terpene profile.
This is a great question. How many terpenes are lost using a bong where air is drawn through water? What's fascinating about bongs is it depends on how the bong is made, and it depends on exactly how it's used. Because if the initial heating is high, it'll lose the terpenes. It doesn't make any difference if it goes to the air or the water. But if you can keep that temperature, let's say at 320, 330, something like that, and then draw it through air and water, it really enhances, it really helps to maintain those terpenes. Is that correct?
I believe so. To be completely honest, I don't have a lot of expertise in the bong area, and knowing how all of that, how it does work with the terpenes, I would just say that if you're heating it, it's probably going to reduce the if you're heating it with a, a lighter like that, like a torch, you're probably going to be losing some of the terpenes.
I'm like yourself. I haven't spent a lot of time around bongs. The times I have seen them and worked with people that have them, I think the biggest problem that we see there is that the initial heat that they produce burns off a lot of the terpenes. Again, that's something it's just something that I haven't seen. I'm not a bong expert, so please, I may not be getting you the right
Me
answer.
either. I guess that person came to the wrong webinar.
It could be. Because I'm seeking a list of physicians in Georgia. Can you help access medical cannabis? I'm just starting to do some work in Georgia. I don't have a list right now. We will look up this question. I'll send you an email, and I'll get you a list of some folks that we know, probably in about another month or so. I've been working with some folks in Georgia. We will probably be broadcasting the webinars next quarter into Georgia, as well as going into Mississippi, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, and Ohio. So we're going to be expanding. Again, Georgia's just starting out. I know that they're in their infancy, and it's very hard right now to find physicians because the program's just being defined, and doctors are just being qualified right now. So you're kind of in the early stages, but if I can get your email address, I'll track it for you and keep it up there. Marijuana and heart condition. You have to be very careful. The only area where you have to be very careful about medical cannabis is when it comes to either blood thinners or heart condition, because cannabis is delivered through your bloodstream. And what's interesting is this is where your doctor needs to work with your medical cannabis doctor, and your medical doctor need to work together to make sure the dosing is correct. And in many cases, what they're doing is they're lowering the amount of heart medication that you're using as you're using more medical marijuana. That's there. So I think that's something that you can use medical marijuana with your heart condition, but please make sure that your doctor and your medical cannabis doctor communicate to make sure you get the dosing correct.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely consult your doctor.
So what are your thoughts concerning the lack of case management to guide patients, including healthy choices, not solely relying on MM? I think that you have a good question here. And the question is, the question becomes, we're so new in researching cannabis. We're so new in looking at cannabis as a medicine. We've not done a lot of studies in this particular area. And especially here in the United States, where it's a Schedule I drug, it's almost put a kibosh on all studies that are out there. Everything that's out there is really coming from overseas. So I know that there is in the medical field, what we do is we have an area where we have a standard of practice that we kind of follow. There really aren't any in the cannabis business yet. There are some being created. There's some coming out of Israel, some coming out of Spain, but we're still in infancy stage in that. So my thoughts are, we need more research. And I think that I have found that it's not just a matter of using medical cannabis. In my particular case, yes, I use medical cannabis to help my herniated discs in my neck and my knees, and the pain in my knees. But I've also found that exercise works great. I practice Tai Chi as a martial art, and it really helps. I don't rely just on medical marijuana. And I think a lot of times when you look at from a holistic healing standpoint, you really have the 4 pillars that you're looking at. And I think both having exercise, having the correct diet, having the correct medicines that are there, and then also put yourself in the mental state. You really want to be able to, in many cases, people call it meditate. Meditating may just be spending a moment composing yourself, and that'll help you quite a bit through the day and help you with a lot of different areas that are there. Next question, interested in how many terpenes can help with insomnia? That's a good question because we're finding out more and more about the terpenes. I know about 3 or 4 right now. What's your thoughts on that, Emily?
I mean, I think that is the question saying how they help, like actually how they work, or which ones can help with insomnia? I'm not really sure what this question is getting at, but I would definitely say that there are terpenes that, just like with lavender, lavender is really relaxing. So
Sure.
there's ones just like that are definitely beneficial for insomnia, but also CBN. So
Right.
the cannabinoid CBN, which is, you've heard of CBD or CBG. It's one of those. CBN helps with sleep. It can also help with neuropathy. So also including that, getting that whole entourage effect with the different cannabinoids would definitely help with insomnia.
Right. There's also a comment about using hybrids. I think, hybrids, what they've come out, what we found about medical cannabis is that by being able to combine products, much like making wine, what they're doing is they're blends to put together the different types of wines that are out there. Even the traditional ones, you hear about Cabernet Sauvignons and you hear about, your champagnes. They're really blends that are out there. Little known fact, a lot of the French wines, the great Cabernet Sauvignons, the grapes are grown in Argentina, which is very interesting.
That is interesting.
The French don't want to admit it, and they don't talk much about it, but I do know, having lived in Europe, spending a lot of time in a wine country, Argentinians contribute a lot to the whole thing. So it really, hybrids are really a positive thing because we're getting to a point with cultivars where we're trying to have what we call the fingerprint. What does that product do? What condition does it help with? And that's what the hybrids are really targeting, and you're getting that's out there. So I hope that helps. I'm going to answer a few other questions before we do the wrap up. I think Jerry asked a really good question. Which one of the better vaporizers by company would you name? Or are there any specifics to look for? There's a couple of products that I really like. They're my go-tos. I do have packs, and I really like the packs cartridges. I think they're great. I think the best for concentrates is something called dipping devices. They have some pens that work really great, and they're my go-to pens for concentrates. I haven't found anything better on the market, and I know everybody likes. I'm not trying to. It's my particular opinion. I know they have these Puffcos, and I think Puffcos are great. I've gone through 3 Puffcos. I just found the dipping devices and the packs work much better. Just my opinion, okay. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't try them. You should definitely try them, but I think that's something that's there. But something to really take a look at. Those are pretty much my go-tos. Now, when it comes to dry herb, Stokes and Biggle are the ones that I use. I use the Mighty Plus. Now, that's the best dry herb product in the market that's out there. No question. You can set the temperatures, very easy to use. That's the good news. Bad news, very expensive. You're talking about $450 to $500 by the time you're done buying one. But if you're really serious about using dry herb and you're very serious about being able to preserve the terpenes, that's the best way to go. Packs and those folks make dry herb, but I don't think they're anywhere near the Stokes and Biddle. And of course, you're looking at the Bentley of devices. So really, a packs would work. But just give you again, that's my opinion. I own all of those. Just by the way, so I try them. I'm something that's out there. Does Equalus work with gummies? I don't know what Equalus is. Do you know what that is?
Eliquis, I think, is
Eliquis.
I think it's a medication. I think it may be a heart medication. Eliquis.
Yeah, I'm
Sounds
not an
familiar.
expert on that.
I would definitely refer to your medical doctor, the doctor that prescribes
Right.
Eliquis, and then also make sure that your medical marijuana doctor knows that you're on Eliquis and ask him how it affects.
Right, right. Michael made a couple of quick comments, which I will just list off right now. By the way, thank you, William. It's a blood thinner. Yes, and it's a blood
Okay.
thinner. Definitely work with your medical marijuana doctor.
Yes, for sure.
Not a matter of the strain or the terpenes. It's a matter of making sure you get the dosing from the heart medication as well as from the medical cannabis standpoint. Just be careful in that particular area. And thank you for that comment.
Yes, thank you.
Michael, you're talking about Florida's reciprocity. Yeah, that's something that's a big topic. I sure wish they were there. I can't change the way the laws of gravity, but unfortunately, that's what we have to put up with right now. And then
I
you were
agree,
wondering,
Michael.
Michael, go ahead.
I agree, Michael. I think that there's so much lost there with the amount of tourists that come out from other states and stuff, but who knows? We'll see.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Michael is asking, are they inventing dry herb bongs? I don't think they are. I think what they've done is they've gone to dry herb devices and not necessarily bongs themselves. The bong process, from my understanding, is water and steam and that type of thing. I think they've really, everybody's kind of headed in the direction of having a device like PAX has, like Stokes and Biddle, those kind of folks. They have some great products. So I think that's the direction that most of the industry is heading. I don't know of any being invented right now. And then Summer has a great comment. When are you coming to Pensacola?
Well, if she's referring to move, we have one in Pensacola.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So we're there. We have already come to Pensacola. You've got to come see us. We've got to see you, Summer.
Yeah. Summer, we'll send your email address. We'll send you the address so you can find it, that it's there.
Yeah, there you go.
So Emily, let's wrap up the move part of this, and then let's wrap up the webinar because we've been at this for about an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, wow.
One of the things I really like about your company is you provide one-on-one consultation to patients.
Yes. Actually, in our headquarters office, we have a team dedicated with quiet consultation rooms where they will do one-on-one video consultations with you if you need that. They will do live chats, just type message chats, or you can do an email or speak to somebody on the phone. So there's really any way virtually to get in touch with somebody. Once you're in our store, the patient care continues, and you're able to get a one-on-one consultation in a private room. If that makes you comfortable, we can walk you around our little islands where we have display products and give you a consultation there. Or if you think you know exactly what you want, you can just go right up to the register and just place your order and have your consultation with the cannabis advisor right at the register. So a lot of ways to get your medicine, including drive-throughs at some locations, which is also really neat. Who would have thought?
I would think that even if you're an experienced cannabis user, you may want to take a look at scheduling a consultation. I think you'll learn a little bit something about cannabis and what helps you and move.
Absolutely. And just even new products. Maybe you didn't know about all the benefits of some of the newer products or how they can be used or whatever, or price changes. Like we just lowered a lot of our prices.
Yeah.
So, go online or have a consultation and definitely see what's up, what's new.
Sure. Good. Well, listen, Move has been I think I really appreciate your products. I know they've helped me quite a bit in the past. And so I do want to thank you for your help. Let's kind of wrap this up. I think when people look at what their options are, I think if you want to have a THC product, you really got to get you really got to deal with a Florida-based dispensary, which means you got to get a medical marijuana card. I think if you're looking for hemp-derived products, then really there are a number of options. I'm going to give you one, but what you're really looking for there is something that has a COA, the right COA. A lot of hemp-based derived CBD products do not have COAs that are accurate or up to date. I've gone when I did a webinar on Delta 8, for example, and I went and checked a lot of these head shops in my area. I only found 2 out of 13 that the product in the bottle matched the product that was on the label. And the COAs in most cases, in fact, in almost all their cases, were over a year to 2 years old, which means they were just duplicated. And what's in the bottle did not describe what was in the bottle.
Yeah.
You found that.
You just got to be really careful with those hemp-derived products. It's good.
Right.
I know you have a reference that's really good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that was it, because a lot of the physicians, when you're looking at dosing with medical cannabis, they recommend buying a CBD product. And a lot of our patients came back and said, where do I find a quality CBD product? And it certainly isn't the gas station down the street. So what we did was we created My Botanical Wellness. And what that really is, it's physician recommended hemp products. Now, the products that we have been tested by the vendors twice in-house and once to an outside firm, very similar to the way the process you go through at Move to be able to approve your products. And we're not trying to compete with Move. We're trying to complement Move. We're trying to really help provide the CBD products that really help complement the products and the dosing and things that go out there.
Yeah.
And actually, I do want to mention, if you want to get a medical marijuana card, I recommend MMTC of Florida. And a lot of people say, well, but aren't they cheaper and better? And I don't think there is cheaper, but there isn't better. And I think the big issue with MMTC is not only do they provide, and there are a number of locations, there are 25 locations in Florida, but I think the big issue is they help you with your dosing. And dosing is the key to making medical marijuana work. I don't know of any other MMTC or any other company or other doctors that really help your patients with dosing. Do you know of any, Emily, besides MMTC?
It depends on where you're looking. If people are looking in the Tampa area, I do have some references, but I also work with MMTC, and I think that they have great doctors as well. Yeah, for sure.
Really, it's out there. And tonight, if you're, if you're watching this, use MMWW15 when you work with them, they'll get a 15% discount. So I want to wrap this up, and Emily, first of all, I'm going to thank you for some great comments and helping out tonight and Move sponsorship. It's really been appreciated.
Of course, I'm happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, and then also we still have a number of people watching, and thank you very much. I know we've gone about an hour and 20 minutes, and it's been long, but hopefully we answered your questions, and hopefully you were able to get something out of this. I know that. Again, if just one person watches this webinar and it helps them get their life back, to be able to feel better, to be able to make a positive move, then I think what we've done is we've actually accomplished what we wanted to accomplish. I will mention that we are going to have a webinar series next quarter. We'll probably in the next couple of days, definitely by Thanksgiving, we'll publish the new schedule, and we have some cool little topics next quarter. Some we haven't done in a while. In the new, we're going to be doing neuropathy. We're going to be doing cancer. We're going to do one on B12. So we'll have a whole new seminar series coming out next quarter. And so please stay tuned and join us. So for everyone who's watching, thank you very much. I want to give a shout out to Lee and Leah, the commentators. I know that it's something that without them, this whole thing wouldn't work in the background. And I just want to thank them. And last but not least, I want to thank Alyssa Katera. She's the one who came up with the idea of these webinars, and we need to have a good shout out for her, because she's really she's the well that the water's flowed from. So anyway, thank you. Michael, you give me a comment that says thanks for 3 weeks of great webinars. And Lisa, thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Compliments get you everywhere. And we look forward to you joining us next year. And Emily, thank you and Move for what you did. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, Mark, and I appreciate our time tonight.
Everybody have a great weekend. More importantly, have a great Thanksgiving, and we look forward to seeing you next year. Thank you very much.